Yo, hello. Okay, we're good. Just have to make sure. So, obviously the title of this stream/video is exactly what it entails. It's just tips and tricks, for new Yu-Gi-Oh players that I think is, extremely important for anyone of any level to learn how to play these, or just these tips and tricks in general. But I specifically want to make this video just because, when I first started, I started playing about a month ago. So I haven't been playing for very long, but these are just some tips and tricks that I've learned that I think can help people who want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh, whether it's, competitively or casually, or you just want to play with your friends. I just think that these tricks are just really helpful for anyone to learn how to play. So, first of all, this is assuming you don't know what Yu-Gi-Oh is. If you don't know what Yu-Gi-Oh is, it is a card game in which, there's a whole load of traps, spells, and monsters, and you just sort of play them around your field. It's very similar to Pokemon. If you played Pokemon, then you know how it's pretty similar to that, where it's just it's just a turn-based game, sort of like that. But what makes it different from Pokemon is very straightforward. Okay, you go into a battle of Pokemon. What do? You summon the Pokemon with that. You summon a strong Pokemon. You beat the other team, your opponent's Pokeballs or Pokemon, and you win. Very simple. From what I've learned in my time with Yu-Gi-Oh, it is not that simple. In the slightest. Yu-Gi-Oh is not insanely complex, but it can be a lot for new characters, and I just think that it is important for people. Sorry about that. I just think that it is important for people to. I just think that it's important for people to learn how to play the game if they so choose to. Give me just a second. Alright, sorry about that. So, the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh is obviously to win. But once again, that's one of the rules that's very, very simple to understand. You have 3 different ways you can win. The obvious way and the most popular way is to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. And in case you don't know what that means, I'll just go into solo mode real quick. I'll do any random battle just so I can sort of show you the field and how it looks. Let's go with, I'll just go here. So one thing I don't really worry about is the deck that I'm using. Alright, this is just one of the decks I play. I play 3 decks. We will go second. This is one of the decks I use. I use 3 decks. I play 3 decks as of right now. I play Dragon Maids, I play Dark Magician, and I play Salamangreat. So this is a dual field, obviously. I don't want you to worry about the cards I have on the ground, or the cards I have in my hand right now. Since it's just sort of, for people who might not know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh. So, pretty much what Yu-Gi-Oh is once again, I said it's a card game in which you have to use monsters, spells and traps to sort of outsmart your opponent and win. So, I probably should be playing on my computer right now, but I'm playing on my PS4. So, the cards at the bottom of my hand is my hand, obviously, and so these things up here that says LP right next to them, that's their life points. Like I said, the most obvious way to win is by reducing their life points to 0 by whatever way, doesn't matter how. Usually you do that by having monsters with stronger attacks than your opponent, or just, there's a multitude of ways to get them, but the most obvious way to win is by reducing your opponent's life points to 0. And you have the second way, which is a little bit it's a little bit less popular, but there are certain cards in the game that allow you to win the game if you have to have all the pieces. Yeah, just for simplicity's sake, you just have to have all the sort of quote-unquote pieces of the puzzle, and once you have all the pieces of the puzzle, you will win the game. You will just straight up win. Like, there's cards that are called, there's like something called Yugioh, and that is the quintessential what I was talking about, how you don't have to reduce your opponent's life points to 0, but it has an effect where if you have, there's 5 pieces of Yugioh, you have the head of Yugioh, the right leg, the left leg, and the right arm, the left arm. If you have all 5 of those pieces in your card, if you have all 5 of those cards in your hand, then you'll win the duel, no matter if your opponent has 8,000 life points, 10,000, 20,000. It doesn't matter. You will win the duel the second you have all 5 of those cards in your hand. There's a couple other cards like that, but Yugioh is probably the most well-known one. If you watch the anime, that's probably the most well-known one. And the third way is something called, what people in Yu-Gi-Oh like to call, decking out your opponent. And what decking out means is that so every turn, every time it's your phase, obviously we have these phases up here, every time it's your turn, you have to, unless it's by other card effect, you have to draw a card. You have to. There's no way to get out of it. You can send that card right to the graveyard or anything, but you have to draw a card during your draw phase, unless, like I said, unless stated otherwise. So pretty much what that means, and the third way you can defeat your opponent is by making, when they have to draw a card, they are unable to. So let's say I had 1 card in my hand, I had 0 cards in my deck, and I end my turn, my opponent goes, he does his thing, and it's my turn, and I cannot draw a card, like as in I have no cards in my deck left, then I would lose the duel. So those are 3 ways you can win in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is by either reducing your opponent's life points to 0, using some other effect such as Yugioh or the Destiny board, and the third one is decking out, which is, like I said, when you force your opponent to draw and they have no cards left to draw. So those are the ways you can win. And now let's talk about the field. It's gonna be kind of hard, just because it's kind of hard because I don't have a mouse. But this is your field. This is your side of the field. This is where everything you're gonna do. I'm gonna say probably 95% of players, they're only gonna summon on this side of the field and activate traps and spells on this side of the field. So these 5 spots here are for monsters only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These spots are for your monsters only. So Maxi is a monster. I would summon it here, and then I would. So that, like I said, this is your. I'll just set it. So this is your monster zone. Up here is your extra monster zone, which is where your link cards, your XCs cards, and your fusion cards, your synchro cards, all cards that are in your extra deck would go up here. So if I had the materials, I could summon one of these cards, and then I would be able to put that card in this zone. But as you can see, there's 2, but only 1 is for you. So like, let's say I do not think there's anything I can do with this. Unfortunately, I got a pretty bad starting hand, especially for this. If I were to, let's say, if I had a normal monster, then I could summon Imduk, the World Child's Dragon, and I could put him right here, which means that this zone would be for my opponent only. So you can control as many these black monsters. The ones with the black frames are called XCs. These ones are called XCs. You can have this whole thing filled up with them, but you cannot have, if you already have a monster in this zone, an extra monster in the extra monster zone, then you are not able to have it there. It's pretty simple. And this back here and this back row, what we call it, is where your spells and traps go. So obviously, blue, the bluish green cards are your spells. So I would have to, obviously, I want to put a spell down, I set it here. If I want to activate a spell, it also goes here. Let's activate this, in fact. It's very simple. So, in this area up here is your field spell zone. So there's a couple of differentiations of the different spells, but we're just gonna take it slow for today. So obviously, as you can see right there, right above it says Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Right there it says field spell. So normally all spells go here, but because it's a field spell, field spells go in this tiny extra zone to the left right here. So that's pretty much what the field looks like. So yeah, we've gone over the ways to win. You have you deck out your opponent, which once again you make them where they can't draw a card, but they're forced to. They lose the duel. We talked about the extra monster or the extra win conditions, like Exodia. Have all the pieces in your hand and you'll win the duel. Destiny board, if you have all the pieces in your spell trap zone, then you'll win the field or you'll win the duel. And obviously you have the most straightforward one, which is getting your opponent's life points to 0. Those are all the ways you can win in Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, and next thing we'll talk about is the phases. The phases isn't nearly as complicated as you might think. Like, oh my god, if you draw a standby, it's not that hard. So obviously the draw phase, that's just when you draw a card, very simple. And then you have the standby phase, which there are some monster effects that you can activate that you can only activate during the standby phase. So like, let's say there's a monster called Dragon Maid Shio. It says during your standby phase you can special summon one dragon monster from the deck. So that's during the standby phase. So that's before you can place any cards down, once again, unless it says otherwise. And then main one. Main one is going to be where you set all of your traps and your spells and your monsters and things like that. So it's it's pretty that's just where you're going to be spending. That's where the most important things are going to happen, when you summon all your monsters, right? And then you go to battle. This card has a very low attack and defense, so I will not be attacking with it. But there's 3 steps of the battle phase. Obviously, we got the battle phase. But so if I were to, so there's 3 steps of like there's something called damage calculation, which is where if this had, I don't know, 1700 attack and I would attack it, that would be the first step, is declaring an attack. In which case, if this is like a trap card, your opponent can activate it if they'd like to. They can. So there's damage. There is declaring a battle, which is stage 1. You've got stage 2, which is before damage calculation, which is when the game takes into question, okay, does this monster have more attack than the other one, and if so, how much damage will they be taking? That's the damage calculation. And then step 3 is after damage calculation, which is pretty much after the math is done, you just go back normally to what it is. And then after battle phase, you can go to main phase 2. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing as main phase 1. That's when you can set your spells and traps again and whatnot, do whatever you'd like to. Although obviously you are not able to special summon any, or you're not able to battle again unless otherwise said. That's like on very limited cards. You don't have to worry about that until you understand everything a lot better. So there's that. And I think that's pretty much it. And then obviously the end phase, which you just end your turn. The end phase is you just end your turn. There are some monsters where the effect is you can only activate it during the end phase. So very simple. Okay. And so what that means, no, I can't activate that. Very simple. So now let's go ahead and now let's talk about summoning and setting a monster. So when it's your turn, or when in your main phase, you can, unless having like a special card effect or something, you can only normal summon a monster once per turn. So obviously there's 3 effects. There's 3 things I could do with this. I could activate the effect, I could summon it, or I can set it. Summoning and setting is the same exact thing. Summoning means I summon it in an attack position, face up, so that means my opponents will see what it is. But if I were to set it, then it would appear just like this card, except obviously sideways and in the monster zone, because all we know is that it's a card that they have set. And the difference between setting a monster and summoning it is, so if I were to, I'm going to activate this effect. Set this, okay. So here's the, okay, so this is in face up attack position, which means that I can obviously attack a monster. Boom. I attack a monster. Okay. So it was kind of hard to see, but I can open this up. Okay, so it says right here on the side of the field, it says, okay, battle phase. Battle phase. So when I declared an attack, before I actually attack, that would be, once again, declaring an attack. Battle damage, which is 2 parts. The first one is seeing which monster's attack is higher and which monster should be destroyed, and then the third part is seeing which thing actually takes damage. So saying who takes damage. Okay. So we notice, okay, so my attack is higher than higher than this monster. So therefore I was able to destroy that monster and B, inflict damage on my opponent's life points. So very simple. And main phase 2, once again, you can, oh, by the way, you can only go to main phase 2 if you go to battle. So if we were in the main phase 1 and I didn't go to battle, I could only go from main phase 1 to the end. But obviously we're in main 2, so I am going to activate this effect, just because it's main 2. It's main phase 2, which is the same exact thing as the first one. It's just obviously a bit different, right? And so, yep. And as you, okay. And so that's pretty much it. So those are the difference between the main phases. And now I'll end my turn. Turn change. So let's see here. What will it do? Okay. Perfect. This gives a perfect opportunity. Alright. So, what has happened is, if I, wow, really? So, okay, so see, what I can do is, this is exactly what they did. If this monster was in attack position and I were to attack it again, they would take another one. How much damage did they take the first time? 850 life points. Right? But now it's in defense position. So if I were to attack it, it's the same exact monster. I would attack it. by the attack. Okay, so they activated a effect. Okay, and as you can see, I attacked it, I destroyed it, but they took no battle damage because it was in defense position. When a card is in defense position, that means while that card is in defense position, you will not take damage unless there's something that some monsters have that's called piercing damage, which is when a card is in defense position, they will still deal damage if their attack is higher than their defense. And this is a trap. It's a normal trap. So in traps there are traps you can mainly only activate during your opponent's turn. So obviously what they did was they used the trap, increased their life points, and because that monster is in defense position, as opposed to losing life points, they not only went to the original 8,000, they also gained an extra 1,500. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Then obviously I have not normal summoned, so what I can do is I can do this once again, just to show you that you can still you can do anything you want. You can still activate effects during your main phase 2. Once again, I'm going to summon this, and I will not activate its effect. Send the card to the graveyard. That's it. Alright, so it's main phase 2, and now this monster's in attack position, and you'll see why you shouldn't put your monsters in attack position all willy. I'm just gonna say willy-nilly like that. Okay, so they flipped up this. Card. So this is what's known as a flip monster, which when you set a card, when you interact with it again, you flip it up and that activates the effect. And also you can, so with this card face down, card, if I were to attack it right now, it would flip it up, therefore activating the flip effect. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. So you'll just want to remember that. So obviously now there's something called, sorry about that. So okay, now this monster is in attack position, which means I can okay, so that's once again, that's another trap card. It's very simple. Destroy some monsters and destroy one of your opponent's monsters. So yep, that's very simple. So now we've talked about all the main phases, we talked about ways to end the battle, and now I think now we're gonna talk about just sort of some general. So that's sort of what I just did now, is trying to teach you to play the game, and now I'm going to give you some important tips and tricks that I've learned. I've only been playing for about a month or 2 months now, but I still think that it's extremely important to give, I just want to, give advice, just that, when I first started playing this game, I didn't know what was going on. So then I joined the Discord server, I started asking questions, I got them answered. So, let's talk about the different kinds of cards. So, the one you'll probably be focusing on most is monsters. Very simple, these monsters, almost all monsters in the game have what's called an attack and defense. So the attack is the one with the sword, defense is the one with the shield. They all have orange borders. These are these are like the monsters you can, I say, readily summon. I don't know how to describe it. And then you've got your something called ritual monsters, which you have to ritual summon usually using some certain card. Give me a second. Alright, sorry about that. So these are your, so they all have, as you can see, it says spellcaster in brackets. It says spellcaster slash ritual slash effect. It's important to remember that it's a ritual card because with monster, there's a lot of monsters you could just normal summon, but ritual cards you have to summon using their respective ritual cards. So that would be something like maybe chaos form for all chaos monsters, things like that. And then, like you said, you've got your spell cards. You've got your spell cards, which are the blue ones, and there's a few different kinds of spell cards. So let's see if I can get all of them. Okay, perfect. So you've got your normal spells, which is so the thing with normal spells that you can only activate them during your main phase. Very simple. Let's just look at this. Okay, I have this in my hand. If I control a dark magician, I can target one card they control and destroy it. Okay, that's a very simple spell. That's what all they're not all that simple, but at least in terms of what they do, that's kind of how simple it is. They just all do something to those lines. Okay, this is a great thing. So there's certain spell cards that you can only activate during your main phase, but there's like this one at the start of your main phase. So that means if you draw this card or you have it in your hand, it's your main phase. Before you do anything, if you want to activate this card, you have to do it before anything else. So if I were to summon a monster or something, I would not be able to activate this card. If I were to set a spell or a trap, wouldn't be able to activate it. I have to activate this before anything else during my main phase. So yeah, but that's also very rare and specific. And now let's go to field spells, which once again I showed you earlier. It was the card that goes to the left. It's the card that goes to the these are field spells. They will, I believe they usually affect both sides of the field. It's a little bit, it's a bit weird because there's certain cards like okay, like let's look at this one. This one only affects your side of the field. And let me find, okay, this one. This is a field spell that affects both sides of the field. So it's a bit different. For each field spell card, it's different for how you're able to, for whether its effects activate both cards, both players. But so that's what field spells are. They go on the left side. You don't, like, once you set them, they're there until they go away for some other reason, and their effects stay active. Like if it's something like this effect is for as long as it's on the field. And let's look at, what did I just see? And something like this. So my Great Sanctuary, if you can pause and read if you'd like to. What it does is it's active, but it's not something you will always use every turn, as opposed to something like Secret Village of the Spellcasters, which is active all the time and affects both sides of the field. So my Great Sanctuary is something that's there, but you're not guaranteed to use it every turn. Oh, hold on. All right. So yeah, there's that. Now let's talk about equip spells. So what equip spells do? Obviously you equip them to a monster. With that, maybe it might say you can only equip to a spellcaster, or something along those lines, and it will usually change its effects, change its stats somehow. Like, okay, the equip monster. What?
Like, are you recording the video?
Yes.
Bro, wait.
Why else did I send you? I sent you a stream. It says tips and tricks for new Yu-Gi-Oh players. Yes. I was gonna do it on Twitch, but then I realized it'd be a lot easier if I just did it on YouTube and just upload. I just kept it like a normal video. Obviously equip spells, very simple. You equip it to a monster, they gain that effect. This one increases attack and defense. There's a wide variety of equip spells, but it's very simple. It's like you equip it to a monster, they gain that effect, like every video game ever. And then you got continuous spell cards, which are like field spell cards in the sense that they're there until they are removed, but they're different because the effects, they're just in a different spot and they usually do different things, but they're a bit different because they're just in the back row as opposed to the field area. So they do pretty much the same thing. Conceptually, they do pretty much the same thing where you have them and they're active for as long as your opponent, as long as they're there, they will affect your monsters only. That they want continuous spells, that they will only affect your field, and not you. They won't affect your opponent's field. Huh?
Field spells can affect monsters on, or they usually do affect monsters on the entire field.
I know.
With,
I said I know. I was talking about how some do, but there's only some that like they'll affect the entire field, but they'll only affect the player using them.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty much what I was talking about. Then you got quick play spells, which are different than normal spells because you can activate them during any turn, during any part of your turn. So like, let's say I have this one. So like, let's say I'll just go with the very basic one. I'll go with Secrets of Dark Magic, or Polymerization, pretty much. So what I can do is, let's say it's my battle phase, I attack with 2 monsters, I can then fusion summon something else during that same exact turn, and attack again. So, quick play spells, so you can activate them during any part of your opponent's turn, and some you can activate during your opponent's turn. That's on a play-by-play basis, so it's a bit different for every card. And then you've got your ritual spells, which these are how you summon your ritual monsters, the ones that are blue. You have to, like, I'll just look at Chaos Form. This card can be used to ritual summon any Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster. It's very, very simple. And so that's the only way you can summon them, is with that ritual spell and meeting its requirements one way or another. And then we've got the traps. Traps are a bit different because most traps you can only activate during your opponent's turn unless it's a continuous trap, in which case you can activate its effect, but we'll get there when we cross it. We'll cross it before we get to it. We got normal traps. So like, let's look at a good one that you can have in any deck. Okay, there's something. Okay, infinite impermanence. If I set this card, if I set this down and my opponent activates a spell, or if my opponent activates a monster effect, I can now activate infinite impermanence despite the fact that it's their turn and negate its effects. So that's what traps do. You can activate them during your opponent's turn to maybe disrupt their plays, get rid of a monster, special summon a monster. There's a lot of things that you can do with traps, but traps' main purpose, their whole purpose, is to get rid of is to sort of disrupt your opponent in some way, shape, or form, once again by negating its effects, or special summoning a monster, or doing just anything like that. And now we've got continuous traps, which are just like continuous spells, in which once you activate them, they are there. Its effects are active until it gets rid of, until that card goes away. So I will look at something like Skill Drain, which is another really good trap card. You activate this card by paying 1,000 life points, and while it's active, all spells, all face-up monsters, their effects are negated, and it's going to be there. You don't take 1,000 life points every turn. There are some spell cards that will make you do that, but that's only if it says so. So you pay the 1,000 life points one time, and it's done. It's there until your opponent gets rid of it using some form of spell or trap removal. Doesn't matter how. It's just know that it's there until they get rid of it. And then you got something like something called counter traps, which are spells that you can only activate in response to other card effects or something along those lines. It's like if my opponent were to activate, it's like, okay, you contribute this card, then special summon one monster. I counter trap, where it's like, okay, so you activated an effect, I'm going to negate that, and you're not able to do that anymore because of the counter trap. And there's something called spell speed, which refers to cards that are able to negate other actions in the way they are. So like, okay, this card on my screen right now, Salamander Great Roar, it has a spell, all counter traps have a spell speed of 3, which means that you can so like normal spells have a spell speed of 1, then you have your quick play spells and things like that, there's spell speed 2, and other traps are spell speed 3. And how it works is sort of like, if I were to activate a spell and my opponent were to activate a trap, I am not able to activate another level 1 spell, because how spells work is that you have to have you have to have either a same speed as that thing negated, or 1 higher. So it's sort of like I activate a speed spell 1 effect. My opponent activates level 2. I am not able to activate another level 1 during that chain, and the only thing I can do is activate another 2 or 3. If I were to activate a 3, my opponent is not able to use a 1 or 2, he has to use a 3. And I can use a 3, it's just like that. That's what traps are. Traps are mainly there to disrupt your opponent by, once again, negating an effect, getting rid of a monster, special summoning a monster. That's what traps are. Now let's go into the different types of monsters. There's a lot, but it might look like a lot, but don't worry, it's not that bad. So you got normal monsters, okay? So every single monster in the game has what's called a type. And the type is, in every monster, it's like, let's look at these spell monsters. These monsters up here, they have obviously they have the brackets. The very first word is their type. Types are they matter depending on what kind of deck you're running, but just know that these monsters are spellcasters. This one is a fiend, this one is an insect, this one's a zombie. That's what you just need to know. Dragon and rock. So normal monsters they have, very simply put, they have no effects. Once you summon them, they are there. There's not like, obviously when I was playing this card earlier, when I summoned it, there was a yellow border around it, which means, okay, I can activate an effect. No normal monster will have that yellow border. They'll just be on the field, and you are not able to activate its effects at all, because there are no effects removed for it to activate. Right, very simple. And then you've got effect monsters, which is what the majority of cards in the game are. They are effect monsters. So like, let's look at this. Okay, perfect. For Fortress Warrior, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. Once returned, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. All right, it's very simply put. So that's its effect. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and you don't have to. Obviously, you have to be on the field in order for it to activate. But it's not like you have to special summon it from your hand or whatever in order to activate its effect. It has an effect. So when you do the thing, whenever its effect can be activated, you activate the effect and it goes off. Very simple. It's different for every monster, but that's what all spell monsters, not spell monsters, effect monsters are. Is they just have an effect that you can activate depending on what kind of activation requirement it needs. It's very simple. And then we've got fusion monsters. Now these go in your extra deck. As you can see, this says your main deck up here and your extra deck. Your extra deck is obviously you have to draw a card from your main deck, but extra deck is different because it's there and you can, provided you have the right materials for it, you can special summon anything from the extra deck at any during like your main phase, during your phase. And it's different because you don't have to draw an extra deck monster. They're just in your extra deck pile. And like, let's say you activate, you want to special summon, I don't know, Big Dragon. You don't have to draw that card. You just have to activate its effect and then you can summon it. So fusion monsters, how they work is obviously you have to fuse them using, so there is a card, we'll find it. Polymerization. So we get rid of that. So this card right here, do I really have it? I might not have polymerization. Okay. So this is polymerization. You fusion summon a monster from your deck, doing. So that's what all fusion monsters are. Let me get rid of that. So this is what all fusion monsters are. Is you have to, okay, obviously it says right there. This is, okay, Master of Chaos. To special summon it, I need Dark Magician. That's a bit much. I'll just go, okay, this one. So in order to summon this card, I need a monster or a card that can fuse monsters together using its effect. And I need those two monsters stacked in order for it to work. Okay, let's say this. I want to fusion summon Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. I will need Dark Magician and one dragon monster. Those can be on either my hand or the field. So you don't have to have both of these on your field at the same time. You can just summon it if you have both the cards in your hand. And and you have to send both of those cards to the graveyard. And then once you do, you send both those cards to the graveyard, and then you bring out this monster, your fusion monster. Fusion monsters have a purple border around them, and once again, they usually require 2 monsters. It can be up to 5, but they usually only require those number of monsters. And then once you summon it, then you could. Hold on. Okay, so we already went over the ritual summoning, but just to be sure. Okay, let's look at. We'll just go back to Illusion of Chaos. Okay, it says I can ritual summon this with Chaos form, which is this spell right here, which is a generic spell. It's not specific to that one card. So ritual summon, how it works is you need to. Okay, let's see here. If I wanted to special summon this card, I would have to send cards to my graveyard with the requirement, but it has to hit the exact number of stars it has. So the level is the amount of stars it has. It's different for every monster. It doesn't like this one. It says Like you don't have to hit the exact number of cards, but it's on a case by case basis of what you have to do in order to summon it. So that's a bit, like I said, it's different with every card. Like this one, for example, you don't need to have it the exact levels. You can go up to, you have to have at least 8. You can have 10, you can have 9, 10, 12, whatever. It has to be at least 8. No, that's the thing. Alright, synchro summoning. And remember, once you get past normal and effect, the rest, most of these will be in your extra deck. So synchro summoning. So the thing with synchro monsters is they will all require something that's known as a tuner. So it just has to have, and they will also have to go up to the level. So like, let's say that, okay, at a level of 9, and it says 1 tuner, and tuners are, there's not an exact thing as to what a tuner is, but it'll say on the card whether it's a tuner or not. So you don't have to worry about guessing whether that card is a tuner, because it will say, hey, this card is a tuner, therefore you can use it to synchro summon a monster. Now synchro monsters usually have really good effects because once again, it takes a tuner and a non-tuner. Very simple. But the thing with this is, once again, you have to hit that level. See how it says level 7 up there? You have to hit that level. You have to at least hit that level. So, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner. Okay, so this, boom, I could synchro summon that. But wait, you're not able to, because you have to hit that level 7 requirement, that level 8 requirement, whatever that thing is, you have to hit that requirement. So I cannot use these two because their levels only add up to 2. So if I wanted to summon this card, if I want to summon Arcanite Magician, since it's level 7, I would have to do Effect Veiler and Dark Magician for a total level counter of 8, and therefore it will summon it. So with single monsters, you have to have a tuner and a non-tuner monster, and you also have to hit that specific level with any, unless like it says, okay, this one it says zombie cards only. So I'm not able to use the cards in this deck to special summon anything because, once again, it's, it says zombies only. And now we'll go to Xyz monsters. So Xyz monsters, once again, they also are in they have a black frame. They're in the extra deck. And how these work is that all Xyz monsters will need 2 cards of the same level. Of some certain, okay, like let's look at this. 2 level 7 monsters. Any level 7 monsters will do. So 2 Dark Magicians, a Dark Magician Illusion of Chaos would work. A Dark Magician of Dark Illusion. It just is 2 monsters that's for this card, and for this one, okay, it says 2 level 8 dragon type monsters. So you have to have dragon monsters on in your field in order to work. Excuse me. With synchro summoning and with XC summoning, they have to be on the field in order for it to work. You are not able to use cards from your hand. You're not able to use cards from your hand in order to summon these monsters. And also, with, like I said, with synchro monsters and fusion summoning monsters, you'll send cards to the graveyard. How XC monsters work is they will sort of, obviously it's a bit hard to show, but right now, as opposed to sending these monsters to the graveyard, the monsters you use to summon that Xyz monster would be sort of under it in a way. Okay, so it says this. This says once per turn you can detach 1 material from this card. So you send one of the cards that you used to make it to the graveyard, and then you activate its effect. That's what detaching means. So when you XC summon a monster, you don't send both those monsters to the graveyard. They instead make those 2 cards come together to make that card. So similar to fusion, but you don't need a fusion summon, or you don't need a fusion stone. You also don't need to you do not need to, you don't send them to the graveyard. You instead keep them under that card in a sense. And then you got Pendulum. Pendulum is really hard. I'll have to make another video about that one. Don't worry, it'll come soon. Link monsters. Link monsters are very easy to get the hang of. So how link monsters work is you need to, okay, this one says one, let's go with a bit different one. Okay, two effect monsters. Nope, that's a bit much. I'll go with this. Okay. So obviously, so what you might notice is that this card has no defense stat, and because it doesn't have a defense stat, it is permanently stuck in attack position. So you cannot set it. You can't put in defense position because there's no defense stat. So this says 1 level 4 or lower Cyberus monster. And now this is sort of like fusion summoning in that you just need those monsters in order to summon it. But it is different because this one has so monsters have normal, they have levels. You got XC's monsters, which are the black ones, which have ranks, and you got Link monsters, which have links. So it says 1 level 4 lower Cyberus monster. So this says, as you can see under the name Salamangreat Balinx, it says a blue L and then 1. That L means it's link rating, which means how many monsters you have to send, how many links you have to have in order to summon that monster. And as you can see, I cannot zoom in on it, but if you look closely, there's under the card, like around its frame, above the effect box, there's an arrow. We'll talk about that when we get to it. So that needs, okay, so just one thing. Let's go with one that is 2. Okay, so this is the Hermetic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. This is 2 links, which means it needs 2 monsters. Obviously, it says that right there. 2 dragon monsters. Okay, it's very simple. Now let's go with something that is 3. Okay, okay, so this is different. So with monsters that have a link rating of 3 or more, it says 2 effect monsters. Okay, so I would need, let's say, if I want to special summon Decode Talker, I would need, let's just say these 3 monsters. These are all effect monsters. Now I can summon that. But the thing with link monsters is that you can use link monsters to go into other link monsters. So let's go with this. So this has a link of 2. This has a link of 2. What I could do is I can use, if I want to bring out Decode Talker, which has a link of 3, I could treat Hermetic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres as 2 monsters. So as opposed to needing 3 monsters, I will only need 2. And that's how link monsters work. And let's just go with this one, Access Code Talker. I have to use it. So how Access Code Talker works is it needs at least 2 effect monsters. So what you could do is, because this card has a link of 3, you could use, if this is on the field, you could use that to bring out, you could treat this card as 3 materials in order to use it. But obviously you need one more monster because it says you need 2 where's it at? You need 2 effect monsters. So yeah, but you can, the least amount you can do is what it says you need, but that's only because link monsters exist, and you can use link monsters in order to go into other ones and make it cheaper. Okay, and then we got attributes. Attributes don't matter as much. They're the top right corner of every card. It shows like a symbol of some kind. Those do matter, but only in specific parts of the deck. Like, let's go with, let me see if I can find one. Okay, I can't, not right now at least. So it's just a bit different. Their attributes is the, like I said, the top right corner. Those don't matter as much, but they will still matter in some parts of gameplay. But that's just something you need to keep in mind, not really have to worry about. And then you got all the types of monsters. There's a lot. I'm not gonna read all of them, but you know, you can read those to yourself. Then your types matter more than your attributes do, because like, let's look at, okay, so this says 2 level 7 spellcaster monsters, and obviously let's just say 2 level 7 spellcaster monsters. These are obviously level 7 spellcaster monsters. Okay, so I can summon that. But let's say I don't think there's any level 7 monsters. Whatever, let's just say I had 2 level 7 dragon monsters. I wouldn't be able to activate that effect because its type is different from what's needed. So types are more important than attributes are, for the most part. And then obviously levels, ranks, level 0 cards are okay, hold on. Alright, so like I said, these cards, like I said, levels are your orange monsters. So all these cards have levels, and also your ritual cards, they have levels. Then you got ranks, which are your Xyz monsters, the ones with the black frames. And then you've got your links, which are the blue monsters. Right, it's pretty simple. That's pretty much it. I think that's all the stuff you need to know. We've talked about how to win duels. We talked about how to win duels. We talked about what spell cards are. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's sort of like the beginning. That's sort of like the brand new beginners part of a Yu-Gi-Oh. Someone who's getting into Yu-Gi-Oh now. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about sort of, okay, so you picked up the game, you did the tutorial, you know how to play the game, you know the different ways you can win. Now from where do you go from there? Obviously what you would do is you would go ahead and choose a deck. So let's go with, I'll create one. So let's say I'm a brand new player. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and, oh, look at that. Okay, I can rank cards by their attack. Oh, wow, that attack is huge. I'm going to add all of these really high attack monsters into my deck. Right. So if you were to do that, you might be wondering, oh man, you know, all these monsters have really high attacks. This is going to be perfect. However, so obviously let's go back 2 levels. I'm gonna just discard that just for a screen that looks a bit cleaner. So there's something we haven't talked about. Obviously, normal summoning monsters is how you play the game. So you can normal summon. So let's say you get any of. Oh, hold on, let me. So you can summon any of these monsters from your hand at any given time, with the exception of those who I literally just summoned. Okay, you can summon these monsters from your hand at any given time because its monster, its level is 1 through 4. Monsters that are level 1 through 4 you can summon at any. Obviously, you only summon one time, but you can summon those without having to tribute anything. Now let's go ahead and bump it up to level 5 or 5 and 6. So monsters that are level 5 and 6 require a tribute. So if you let's say this, I want to summon this card, Skull Archfiend of Lightning, and I have a different monster in the field. What I have to do in order to summon it is I would have to send my monster on the field in order to tribute summon this monster. Any level 5 or 6 monster you with certain effects, obviously, you just have to tribute a monster, send one monster from your field to the graveyard or summon. And then you got 7, 8, and then you got 7 above, which all require 2 monsters. So you have to have 2 monsters in the field in order to summon this monster. So I let's say I have 2 Dark Magician, or let's say I have, I don't know, two monsters. It doesn't matter. I have this card in my hand. I want to summon it. I have to send both of those 2 cards to the graveyard, and then I can and then I can summon that card from my hand. So that's what sorry. So that's how tribute summoning works. I believe it's something different for maybe like 11, 12, 13. I think you have to like tribute 3 monsters for 11 and 12, but I honestly cannot remember, so that is my bad. But these cards are very specific. So yeah, talked about normal summoning. All right, now let's go ahead and clear all these. All right, so you want to make a deck, or you have a lot of cards. You just finished the game. You just finished your tutorial, and now where do you go from here? So what I recommend for all new players to do is once you beat the tutorial, you'll have, I don't know exactly how many gems you'll get, but you'll get a lot of gems if you do the tutorial. What I recommend you do is you go to the shop, and the special deal, and obviously this is only for, this is for a limited time each season, but the first entry pass, that is, you get a lot of cards. You get a lot of cards for like really cheap gem price, and you get mates and things. You get a couple cosmetics. So that's what I recommend first. It's from the first anniversary pack. Another thing that's really good is the bundle deals, which they cost 750 gems, so it might be a little bit steep. But what they do is they give you 10 packs of. They give you 10 random packs, and so normally 10 packs would cost 1,000 gems. But with the special deal, not only do they cost 750, you're guaranteed each card in the very beginning, like, okay, this one says Nibiru, this one's Forbidden Chocolate, this one's Infinite Impermanence. The card that's on the front is the card you're guaranteed to get. And all of these cards are extremely strong. Like, these are cards that you can run in any deck, and you'll have great success. Not with the deck, but these cards are just insanely strong that you'd want to have in any deck that you play. Accessories, these are very simple. These do not affect gameplay at all, but they look nice, so if you want to buy it, then I understand why. But okay, so now you get to structure decks. So now structure decks, when you're brand new to the game, obviously when you're at the very beginning, the game is like, okay, choose one of these 3 decks to play. So if you want to play this game casually, then I say build whatever deck you want to go for. But if you, maybe not competitively is the word, but if you want to sorry about that, if you want to play this game and have like success in ranked, then I suggest that you get one of these structure decks. Whichever structure deck looks coolest to you is the one I say you get. If you like it, if you think it looks cool, then great, go for it. But here's what I will say is that the structure decks that I have played, or the structure decks that I have bought, the ones that I also currently play now, the 3 decks that I play, as I said in the very beginning, I play Dragon Maid. I bought these structure decks, by the way. Is Dragon Maid to order. I play Vortex and Magic, which is a Dark Magician deck, and I play Burning Spirits, which is monsters that are all about Salamander. Now, if you're brand new to the game and you want to have some success, if you want to, maybe not some success, but like, the best structure decks in the game, most likely, are like I said, the decks that I purchased. So Dragon Made to Order, Salamangreat, and Vortex of Magic are all really good. I'd say, and not to mention, the reason I chose Dragon Maid is because it's not only good, it also it also teaches you how to play the game. And not teaches you how to play the game, but it teaches you fundamentals of it's just a really good starting deck that can take you pretty far. I'd say probably up to like gold, maybe platinum. Salamangreat is another really good deck, and Dark Magician is really good just because the amount of UR cards you can get in this deck is insane. And not to mention, I find it very fun to play. So obviously you choose whatever you want, but the deck I would recommend the most is Dragon Made to Order. For a lot of reasons, but that's the main most because it's easy and also teaches you to play the game. So what structure decks are is 500 gems, so relatively cheap. So how it works is it comes with 40 cards. Every structure deck comes with 40 cards and 40 main deck cards and 5 cards that are in your extra deck. Okay. So they're literally meant to be. What you could do, you could buy a structure deck and just go into a match with that structure deck alone. You might not have that much success with it, but that's how they're supposed to be played. Now, structure decks, obviously, like I said, it comes with all that. What makes them so good is because they come with so many cards. It comes with all of these cards, obviously, and with structure decks, if you want to make a good deck from a structure deck, all you need to do is buy that structure deck like 2, maybe 3 times, maybe 3. Yeah. So, and not to mention like I said, just buy two or 3 structure decks, like 2 or 3 of the same exact deck, and you'll be able to make a pretty good deck with that. So that's, like I said, I recommend Dragon Maid to Order. Is really solid. It's really solid, and also teaches you once again to play the game. Salamangreat is a bit more complicated and requires a bit more cards than just one in the structure deck, but if you can learn how to play, it is really good. And Vortex of Magic, in my honest opinion, I don't think it's that good, but once again, the amount of UR cards you get from it is really good. And I also think that it's just a really fun deck to play. So you can choose whatever you want. So yeah, I recommend, like I said, Vortex of Magic, or Dragon Maid to Order, or Burning Spirits. Hold on, give me a second. Alright. Sorry. So now this is where I will break into, where are we at? About 56 minutes. All right. All right. So now we're going to talk about specifically. Now we're going to go into something a bit more advanced. It's not too complicated to talk about, but it's still just something. Just a quick disclaimer to talk about. So there's different. I'm sure that there's an official term for this, but we're just going to use the terms that I use. So I think there's a few. I feel like all decks in this game will fall into an archetype of some kind. Let's see. Oh, alright, that just got out. Okay. Alright, there we go. So there are some cards. So I think that all decks in the game will fall into some sort of. I'm just gonna say maybe not archetype, because archetype is, like Dark Magician's an archetype, but I don't know exactly how to describe it. So I'm just gonna call it archetype until I can think of a better term for it. So I think that there is a lot of, so like let's just go with alright, my friend who should be here in a moment, he plays a deck that's based around Gaia the Fierce Knight, which I would consider Gaia decks or decks that just resolve around monsters that just have really high attack. I would consider those decks to be like beat down decks. So they're just designed. I feel like decks like those are just designed to, okay, have this card that has really high attack and just beat down your opponent with other high attack cards. So that's what I think beat down decks are. Obviously, you play Gaia the Fierce Knight. Is that what it's called? Whatever. Something similar to that. Gaia decks, I would consider that to be a beat down kind of deck. Hey, how would you explain, since you play a beat down deck yourself? Since you play Gaia specifically, how would you explain a Gaia deck? Not exactly Gaia, but just a beat down deck in general to someone.
Basically, the goal of a beatdown deck is it usually involves normal summoning a monster, and sometimes it can involve something like using that monster or a spell card to special summon another monster, or tribute summoning something from your hand. That happens a lot of the time. Not even just with Gaia, like with a lot of beatdown decks. Except pretty sure you can do that with Gaia too. But anyway, there's that, and then there's a lot of the time that involves either fusion summoning or special summoning from the extra deck, which fusion summoning is basically that too, but you need a card to do it usually that will tie into whatever deck you're running. And then special summoning what the Yu-Gi-Oh community, I'm assuming, usually likes to call it a boss monster, which is just the card that deck revolves around, and is going to either do the most damage or have the most useful effects.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a mix of both. Now, specifically with Gaia and some other decks, of course, once you special summon the monster, if that goes away, if that somehow, I don't know, maybe you get Raigeki or Lightning Storm and you have no effects in your hand that would negate a spell of that sort, then usually there will be a way to, I guess, kind of like restart it. Like in my experience with Gaia, there is one card called Galloping Gaia, which lets me put another card in my hand so I can basically resummon the boss monster without having to use every resource in the deck and potentially get bricked immediately.
Okay.
And then the main point of a beatdown deck is just, as I'm sure you were talking about before, is to just literally beat them down and make it so that either they can't get rid of your card, or your card has a very punishing effect to go against, or they just have a really high attack and there's no way you can get rid of that card because your cards don't have a high enough attack.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, I don't play it, but I've played against it enough. That's pretty much the whole thing. So, like you said, boss monsters. Boss monsters don't always have to be like. Let's look at like the Sky deck, for example, that he's talking about. There is a. I'm just looking at the structure deck because I obviously don't have the card, but this is the card in question. Gaia, the Magical Knight of Dragons. It already has an insanely high attack stat of 2600, but if you fusion summon it using a specific card, then it gains another 2600. So for like what, 5200. And if it destroys a card during battle, it gains another 2600. So it could just get insanely high attack, which is what it's what's, like you said, it's the boss monster of this deck. That the whole deck, maybe not the whole deck, but the deck revolves specifically around Gaia, this Gaia, the Magical Knight of Dragons, and just sort of supporting it and getting on the field as often as you can, right? And so I'm going to talk about the deck, one of the decks that I play, Dark Magician, which is another deck that revolves around, you could say that its boss monster is Dark Magician, kinda. It's not like it's a boss monster, but not in the same way that Gaia is. It's like, oh my god, Gaia has 7,000 attack. How do I beat it? How Dark Magician works. Sorry, go ahead.
My bad. Just thought this would be useful to add. Beatdown decks don't always have to have a boss monster. Sometimes it can be like one monster with, like, I don't know, 3k attack, and if you have nothing on the field that's higher than that, then it can involve multiple other monsters with not too high attacks, maybe like 2k, but either way, if you have a full board of cards with 2k attacks and you have no monsters on the field, then you're getting beat down.
Yeah, so like you said, this beatdown isn't specifically tied to one monster with one effect. It's just the genre of cards that usually, like you said, it just, like you said, it's in that same realm of just cards that just will literally just beat down your opponent, get rid of the card somehow. But so that's like what he said. And now we're gonna go into another archetype, which also has a boss monster. Once again, Dark Magician. So the quote-unquote boss monster of Dark Magician is obviously Dark Magician. That's what the deck is named after. But it's different because what I would consider to be a sort of control deck. That is, so what Dark Magician, the whole point of Dark Magician is to recycle, is to use Dark Magician as often as you can and send it to the graveyard and bring it back, and with like there's a lot of, all of these cards in this deck somehow support Dark Magician. So I wouldn't know exactly what to call that. I say control deck, but to me control feels a bit more, it just feels a bit different. But I'd say, okay, I'm looking at this thing, it says, okay, I'm looking at it now. Dark Magician is what you could say a ramp up deck is. It's like in the very beginning, it's not going to be very strong just because, there's some cards like, there's some decks like Dragon Maids, Sprite, Tearlament, Gaia that need one turn to set up their really good effects. But with something like Dark Magician, you can set up a good board on your very first turn, but it's not going to be like that usually, just because the whole point of Dark Magician is just summoning Dark Magician, sending it to the graveyard, resummoning it, just summoning it as many times as you can, because there's this card. There are two cards in this deck that are extremely crucial. You have the card Dark Magical Circle, which is a continuous spell, which once you activate it, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you can add one of them to your hand that's Dark Magician, change the order of it. Okay, that's not the effect we're worried about. What we're worried about, or the card, or the effect that really matters, is if Dark Magician is summoned to your field in any way, shape, or form, you can banish one card that your opponent controls. Any card, well, there's some cards you can't target with effects, but that's how it works, is you can banish any card that they have, which is insanely strong, because there are a million ways you can summon Dark Magician. You can summon it using Magician's Souls, you can summon it with Magikaribo, Chronicle Magician, Timaeus. There's a lot of ways you can do that. And you might be wondering, okay, well, what if they have Harpy's Feather Duster, which is a card that gets rid of all your opponent's fields and spells. Well, that's why you have, or they have like a Raigeki, which gets rid of all your opponent's monsters, which is why you have something like Eternal Soul, which is another extremely good trap card, specifically for this deck, because it says every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by opponent's card effects. So if I had a Dark Magician and they had a Raigeki and they wanted to destroy it, the effect would go off, but at the end my Dark Magician would still be standing because it's unaffected by card effects. And you might be wondering, okay, well, if they have these two spells up and they have a Harpy Feather Duster, which, like I said, gets rid of one spell, or gets rid of all spells and traps on your opponent's side of the field, you might be wondering, okay, how do I deal with that? So there's a card called Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, which says your opponent cannot target spells and traps you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed. So therefore, with that card on the field, it is impossible to target your fields and your spells with any effects. So that's why this is like I'd say, like I said, it's like a ramp up deck, just because the whole point of Dark Magician is to A, get Dark Magician on the field, and B, there's a million ways you can do that because of all the support cards that there are for it. So it's just, but there is something that it's like that's really easy to get with something like Dark Magician and Gaia, is if you have a starting hand, there's like 5 spells that you can't do anything with, then that's what's known as being a sort of like a bricked hand. Hold on. Give me just a second, guys. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I did not see these. Yeah, 3DM. It is pretty bricky, but the reason there's no reason. I just haven't changed this deck in a while. I built this deck like I built this deck like this is like the very second deck I built, so I kind of built it just with that in mind. Not really, but that was like before I knew the best way for me to play. But I honestly might get rid of one of these cards. I probably don't need both of them, but I just don't know what to replace it for. So yeah. Yeah. Probably get maybe Soul Servant. I honestly wouldn't know what to get rid of it for. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, pretty much. Yep, give me a second. I might as well play a match. I'll stick with Dragon Maid. Yo, this person, in chat, do you play not Dark Magician? Yeah, do you play Dark Magician? I'll go first. So, I definitely think I could use some help with maybe not making a new deck entirely, but I definitely think I could use some help. You're gonna Ash Blossom that. Special summon this card from your hand if you do. Oh, it's it! I'm going up against Terror. No! My first match on, and I'm going up against two. Dragon Maid. To be honest, man, I am not looking forward to it in the slightest. But I'm hoping it's not. I don't even know what I'm hoping for. I'm just hoping that.
I just went up against a tournament deck and I was trying to figure out what to do. And I spent a good like 2 minutes on combat and they sucked. So I might be able to win that way.
What? What? You can.
Listen, man, every deck I could type in
Alright, I have not played against it yet. I'm gonna hope that he's bad. Something tells me he's not bad. Oh lord. You can kind of one monster. Nah, he's not bad. He knows what he's doing. This is not good. I don't even know what to negate with this card. I don't even know what to negate. I don't even like the thing with that's a special summon. I literally don't even know what to negate. I don't know. So is it like Sprite in the fact that is it like Sprite just because it has like it's just full of negates?
It's full of negates, it's full of special summons, it's full of graveyard summons.
What is happening? Oh, I should not have let that happen. I don't even know what's that. I'm just gonna Ash Blossom that. All right. Okay, so do they have high attacks?
No.
3K. Yo, this dude in chat, if you're still play against, how do I? I'd rather go up against Sprite because I at least know the monsters of Sprite well enough. I know them better. Oh lord, it's Shadow and Sprite. Ugh. Oh, you was not lying. Those are some pretty hefty attack stats, and he has not normal summoned this whole time. What is this? I don't even know what to do. this might be. It all depends. Okay, if he goes straight into battle with this, which I doubt he will. Okay. When a level 5 or higher monster would be special summoned, you can destroy that special summon. Oh. Oh. I do not know what to do. Okay, well he goes straight into battle. Alright, the only thing I can do is return one of his monsters back to the head. The one with the highest attack.
They will summon it right out of their head.
No, it's the battle phase. They can summon it during their main too. I don't care about that. I just need, because if I didn't summon that, yeah, if I didn't return that card to the hand, I would only be at 900 life points. I'm at 3,900, which isn't much, and I just got Ash Blossom. Oh my god! Okay. Alright, my only hope is to, I just need some, does it say, that's not once per turn. That is not once per turn. That is not once per turn. Special summon something. I will, okay. Literally, what do I even do again? What do I even do? Add to the hand.
If you in that match, I will give you the energy required to change your legal name to Yugioh.
Alright, let's see here. Special summon one. Thanks. Deep position. Okay. Hopefully I can get him to negate. Hopefully I can get him to negate this effect. That's the card that. Because if he doesn't, then he knows. You target up to 3 cards in any graveyard. Ain't no way! You're lying. You're lying. There's no way you can target cards in my graveyard to return to my deck. I can't even use... Okay, special summon. Which cards are you gonna? Okay. I don't have any cards in my graveyard now, do I? Oops. Oh Lord, this is annoying. I don't even know what to do against this. I literally chose Dragon Maid for this specific reason. This is like, okay, this is probably the deck I have the best chance of winning with. I do not. Oh Lord, what is he about to summon? Oh, the Dark Charmer's movie. Do I even have any Dark Monsters tonight? No, I don't. Alright, fair enough. Oh, okay. battle phase. It's 500 attack. Yeah, no. Look at the kitchen. Special skills from the. No! Is that all 3 Ash Blossoms? I got all 3 Ash Blossoms by turn 4. Are you serious? What is this? What is this luck? What is this luck? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I really do not know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, okay, alright, so I don't even have like the, I don't even have like the monsters to, he's gonna send that card to the graveyard on purpose. Good God, this is annoying. Oh my. Okay. From the back of the hand. Whoa, my God, which one do I go for? Oh, I gotta go with I gotta go with Chamber. And send Chamber to the graveyard! Maybe I gotta... Oh. Okay. Oh, Lord. This is even worse. This is even more annoying than what they call it. Salaman Great. And of course, I got all 3 of my hand traps in the very beginning, which... At this point, I don't even know like where I made the mistake. Maybe my only mistake was choosing to play this game. Huh? You talking about chill limits? Skull, Soul Merchant, whatever it's called. In the graveyard? He's gonna banish my Tinkek, isn't he? God damn.
See what I was talking about?
There's no way in hell I'm able to do this because I don't have any spell. I have no way to get rid of all his monsters.
That's not bad. My experience, I've played a good 3 or 4 tier matches. There's usually about... Okay, how many spell traps do they have?
How many what?
How many spell traps do they have?
How many spell? They only have one. It's challenge screen.
Oh, yeah, you should be fine.
You see, I would, except this is, I don't know. It's just a lot of sending stuff to the graveyard and bringing it back. So I am very, very confused as of right now. My only hope is to time him out or something. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Maybe I can make him kick his router. Alright, well that 3000 attack monster is back. Okay. Okay, Dragon Maid Ernest. Okay. Okay, this... Okay, now depending... oh. Ow. Ooh, I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do. Alright, well, Chamber Dragon Maid. I'm gonna hope that that isn't a negate in his hand.
Better.
500. Oh, 500 attack? Cards in my graveyard. His graveyard. 500 attack? Literally 500 attack is all it needs in order for it to... What rank am I? Silver 5? Okay, maybe he's about to give up. I think so. Silver 5. Yeah, it's not that high.
You? I thought you were like silver 2.
No, I haven't played. I do not play ranked on my phone. You made the gold nice. I might try to climb the gold tonight. But if I go up against one more tournament deck, I'm going on. Let's pack my shit up now. I'm going. Jesus Christ! What am I doing? What is happening? Alright, I gotta use kitchen in earnest. So the one thing I have noticed is that he has not negated my effects, which makes me worried. I mean, here's Shio, but like, what can she even do? My only, like, but if I battle a monster, and it gets sent to the graveyard, I'll be able to activate like 17 effects. So it's an endless battle, an uphill battle, one might say. Okay, this is the hand. He has activated Tearlament Havanis so many times. My God. Okay, I gotta think, what should I do? There's no way I'm getting rid of that, so I might as well activate it. Oh, I just lose off of that.